Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a world where time moves in cycles, where the stars above guide the fate of kings and empires. A world of towering pyramids hidden deep within lush jungles, where ancient cities once thrived, their plazas filled with the echoes of voices long forgotten. This is the world of the Maya, a civilization of astronomers, architects, warriors, and poets. A people who unlocked the secrets of the cosmos, built monumental temples aligned with celestial rhythms, and wove time itself into an intricate calendar that stretched across the ages. Their story is one of greatness and mystery, a civilization that rose from humble beginnings to create some of the most awe-inspiring cities of the ancient world. Tikal, Copán, Palenque, Chichén Itzá that still whisper tales of lost dynasties, sacred rituals, and the unbreakable connection between humanity and the universe. But then, the jungle grew over their temples. Their cities were abandoned, their history obscured by time. For centuries, the outside world wondered what happened to the Maya. Did they vanish? Were they destroyed? Or is their legacy still alive in ways we have yet to understand? Tonight we embark on a journey through the rise and fall of one of the greatest civilizations to ever exist. We will uncover their ancient wisdom, their rituals, their wars, and their enduring mysteries. We will walk through the sacred corridors of their temples, gaze at the night sky through their eyes, and rediscover a people who were never truly lost. Let your mind drift as we step into the past. Let the soft echoes of time guide you, and together we will unravel the entire story of the Maya. Long ago, in the dense tropical jungles of Central America, where thick mist rolled over towering trees and the cries of exotic birds echoed through the valleys, a great civilization was rising. The Maya, a people of knowledge, astronomy, architecture, and prophecy. Their story stretches back thousands of years, before European explorers ever set foot on the shores of the New World. The Maya were not a single unified empire, but a vast network of city-states, each with its own rulers, traditions, and architectural wonders. Their civilization spanned present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. Their legacy is one of mystery and grandeur, built upon millennia of development, trade, warfare, and spiritual devotion. The origins of the Maya remain veiled in mystery. Archaeologists have traced their beginnings to small agrarian communities that flourished thousands of years ago. Their mastery of agriculture, particularly maize, beans, and squash, allowed them to settle in one place and expand their villages into bustling hubs of activity. Over time, their dwellings of wood and thatch gave way to stone structures, towering monuments, and elaborate ceremonial centers. One of their earliest and most defining achievements was the development of a hieroglyphic writing system, the most sophisticated script in pre-Columbian America. This intricate system combined logograms and phonetic symbols, enabling them to record history, astronomical calculations, and sacred texts. They etched their knowledge onto towering stone stelae, painted it on ceramic vessels, and inscribed it into sacred codices books that were tragically burned by Spanish conquerors centuries later. But how did the Maya transition from scattered farming villages to powerful kingdoms? The answer lies in their deep understanding of water and land management. They engineered advanced irrigation systems, reservoirs to collect rainwater, and terraced farmlands to maximize crop yields. Their ingenuity in harnessing nature allowed their population to flourish, giving rise to the first great Maya cities. One of the earliest known centers was Nakbe, dating back to around 1000 BCE. Its limestone structures stood as a testament to early architectural mastery. However, it was during the preclassic period spanning from 2000 BCE to roughly 250 CE that the Maya truly began to thrive. This was the era of their first monumental cities, including the colossal El Mirador. El Mirador was a marvel of the ancient world. Its massive pyramid, La Danta, stood over 230 feet tall, dominating the jungle skyline. The city was connected to neighboring settlements by elevated causeways known as Sakbio Broad, white stone roads that facilitated trade and movement. The Maya were expert traders, exchanging jade, obsidian, cacao, and exotic feathers with other cultures, including the Olmecs, who influenced their religious iconography and artistic styles. But the Maya were more than just builders. Their civilization was deeply spiritual, their lives governed by divine forces. Gods controlled every aspect of existence. Chak, the rain god, determined the fate of their crops, while Itzamna, the celestial creator, was worshipped as the deity of wisdom and knowledge. Religion and astronomy were inseparable. Maya priests studied the stars, tracked celestial cycles, and developed an intricate calendar system that dictated ceremonies, agricultural cycles, and even wars. Despite their incredible achievements, the Maya faced struggles. Climate shifts, deforestation, and internal conflicts led to the decline of some early centers. But this was not the end. It was merely a transformation. A new era was about to dawn, the classic period, the golden age of Maya civilization. In this time, mighty cities would rise. Rulers would carve their names into history, and the Maya would reach the pinnacle of their power, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire. As the dense jungles of Central America pulsed with life, the Maya civilization entered what many consider its golden age. The classic period, spanning from approximately 250 CE to 900 CE, was an era of grand cities, towering pyramids, powerful rulers, and astonishing intellectual advancements. It was during this time that the Maya reached the peak of their architectural, artistic, and scientific achievements, leaving behind breathtaking remnants that continue to captivate the world today. At the heart of this era were the great city-states. Unlike centralized empires such as the Aztecs or the Incas, the Maya were organized into independent city-states, each ruled by its own divine king. These cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copán, Caracol, and Calakmul, to name a few, were sprawling metropolises, complete with towering pyramids, massive palaces, ceremonial ball courts, and elaborate tombs. They were not mere settlements, but vibrant centers of culture, trade, and political power. One of the most powerful of these cities was Tikal, located in present-day Guatemala. By 500 CE, it had become one of the largest and most influential Maya cities, home to tens of thousands of people. Its skyline was dominated by magnificent temple pyramids, the most famous being Temple 1, also known as the Temple of the Great Jaguar, and Temple 4, which rose over 70 meters into the sky. These structures were not only architectural marvels, but also deeply symbolic, serving as tombs for kings and places of spiritual significance. The rulers of Tikal were formidable, their names inscribed in stone to be remembered for eternity. One of the most notable was Yikin Chankawiel, who oversaw the expansion of Tikal and the construction of some of its most iconic structures. Yet, Tikal did not rise to power uncontested. The city was locked in a fierce rivalry with another great Maya kingdom, Calakmul. Calakmul, deep in the jungles of modern-day Mexico, was Tikal's equal in power and ambition. For centuries, these two superpowers engaged in political maneuvering, alliances, and outright warfare. Their struggle, known as the Tikal-Calakmul War, shaped the course of Maya history. The rulers of both cities sought to expand their influence, forming alliances with smaller city-states and waging strategic campaigns against each other. One such alliance was the Snake Kingdom, a powerful dynasty that ruled from Calakmul and extended its reach across the Maya world. The Snake Kings, as they were known, exerted control over many smaller cities, creating a vast network of vassal states that stood in opposition to Tikal's dominance. Their influence can be seen in hieroglyphic inscriptions across the Maya region, marking their presence far beyond the walls of Calakmul itself. But power was not just about war, it was also about religion and ceremony. The Maya kings were not merely political rulers, they were considered divine figures, intermediaries between the gods and the people. Their legitimacy was reinforced through elaborate rituals, bloodletting ceremonies, and grand public displays. Bloodletting was among the most sacred of Maya rituals. Rulers, priests, and nobles would pierce their tongues, ears, or even genitals, offering their blood as a sacrifice to the gods. These rituals were believed to ensure cosmic order, fertility, and divine favor. The blood would be collected on paper or cloth and then burned, the rising smoke carrying messages to the heavens. Human sacrifice also played a significant role in Maya religious life. Unlike the large-scale mass sacrifices of the Aztecs, Maya sacrifices were often more selective, involving captured warriors, nobles, or even members of the elite. Victims were thrown into sacred cenotes, natural sinkholes, believed to be portals to the underworld, or brought to temple altars, where their hearts were removed in highly ritualistic ceremonies. The Maya also developed an incredibly sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Their priests carefully observed the movements of the stars, the sun, and the planets, recording their findings in codices and using them to predict celestial events. They created precise calendars, including the Tzolk'in, a 260-day sacred calendar used for religious ceremonies, and the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar that governed agricultural cycles. One of their most astonishing accomplishments was the long count calendar, a system that tracked vast spans of time, stretching back to what they believed was the beginning of the current cosmic cycle, the 11th of August, 3114 BCE. This calendar, often misunderstood, led to the famous 2012 prophecy, when many believed the Maya predicted the end of the world. In reality, 2012 was simply the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, a renewal, rather than a cataclysm. Art and writing flourished alongside these advancements. The Maya inscribed their history on stone monuments, pottery, and bark paper books, crafting a rich literary tradition. Their texts recorded the lives of kings, celestial events, myths, and even daily affairs. However, much of their written history was lost when the Spanish arrived, with conquistadors and priests burning their codices, deeming them the work of the devil. Only a handful of these precious books survived, including the Dresden Codex, which provides valuable insight into their astronomical knowledge and rituals. As the Classic period continued, the Maya civilization reached its zenith. But beneath the surface, challenges were mounting. Environmental pressures, political instability, and prolonged wars began to take their toll. By the 9th century, the great cities of the southern lowlands started to decline, their once thriving centers abandoned, their temples swallowed by the jungle. What caused the collapse of the great Maya cities? Was it climate change, warfare, resource depletion, or internal strife? Clues lie in the ruins of their fallen cities, in the bones of their rulers, and in the very fabric of the land they once dominated. The great cities of the Maya, once centers of power and culture, were beginning to show signs of strain. For centuries, the rulers of these cities stayed engaged in alliances and conflicts, built monumental temples, and perfected their astronomical knowledge. But even the most advanced civilizations are not immune to the forces of nature and time. The decline of the classic period Maya, often referred to as the Maya collapse, remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Between the 8th and 10th centuries, many of the major cities of the southern lowlands, Tikal, Copán, Palenque, slowly abandoned. Their once bustling plazas fell silent, their towering pyramids left to be reclaimed by the jungle. But why? What forces led to the downfall of these once mighty city-states? One of the key factors may have been climate change. Recent research suggests that the Maya faced a prolonged period of severe drought, possibly lasting for decades. Since their civilization relied heavily on seasonal rainfall to sustain agriculture, a significant decrease in water supply would have been devastating. The vast reservoirs they had built to collect rainwater could no longer sustain their growing populations. Crops failed, food shortages spread, and famine became widespread. Alongside environmental pressures, warfare and political instability played a major role. As resources became scarce, city-states that had once thrived through trade and alliances found themselves locked in bitter struggles for survival. Evidence of increased fortifications, burned palaces, and mass graves suggest that warfare intensified during this period. The once powerful kingdoms turned against each other in a desperate attempt to secure what little remained. Another possible cause of the collapse lies in deforestation and soil depletion. The Maya, in their quest to expand their cities and build ever larger temples, cleared vast areas of forest. This not only affected the local climate, but also led to soil erosion and declining agricultural productivity. Over time, the land simply could not support the growing populations. Despite these challenges, it is important to note that the Maya civilization did not disappear. While the great cities of the southern lowlands fell into ruin, the Maya people themselves endured. Their descendants still live throughout Central America, preserving many of their traditions, languages, and customs. Meanwhile, in the northern regions of the Yucatan Peninsula, new centers of power were rising. Cities like Uxmal, Chichén Itzá, and Mayapan emerged as the focal points of Maya civilization. Adapting to the challenges that had led to the downfall of their predecessors, these cities would define the next era of Maya history, known as the post-classic period. With new alliances, new forms of government, and an evolving culture, the Maya adapted to a changing world. But their challenges were far from over. New powers would soon emerge, reshaping the course of their history yet again. As the grand cities of the southern lowlands faded into the shadows of time, the Maya civilization was far from extinct. Instead, it underwent a transformation, shifting its centers of power northward, where a new era was unfolding. This was the post-classic period, an age of reinvention, resilience, and renewed political complexity. In the vast plains of the Yucatan Peninsula, where the land was drier and rivers were scarce, new Maya city-states rose to prominence. Unlike their predecessors, these cities relied more on cenotes, the natural sinkholes that provided access to underground water sources. This adaptation allowed them to thrive in an environment where traditional reservoirs and irrigation systems were less effective. Among these cities, one name stands above the rest: Chichén Itzá. Chichén Itzá, was unlike any Maya city that had come before it. By the 10th century, it had grown into one of the most powerful centers in all of Mesoamerica. Its architecture blended Maya traditions with influences from central Mexican cultures, such as the Toltecs. This fusion is evident in the city's most iconic structure, the Temple of Kukulkan, also known as El Castillo. This massive pyramid, rising nearly 100 feet above the surrounding landscape, was not just a template, was a precise astronomical instrument. Each year, on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun cast a shadow on the northern staircase, creating the illusion of a great serpent slithering down the pyramid's side. This was a tribute to Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, who was central to Maya and Toltec belief systems. The presence of Toltec-style architecture, including warrior columns and images of sacrifice, suggests that Chichén Itzá was influenced or possibly even conquered by outside forces. Some historians believe that Toltec rulers from the central Mexican city of Tula may have taken control of Chichén Itzá, introducing new cultural and religious practices. Others argue that the Maya themselves simply adopted and integrated foreign influences through trade and diplomacy. Regardless of how it came to be, Chichén Itzá became a hub of power, trade, and religious ceremony. The city's great ball court, the largest in Mesoamerica, was a place where ritualized games took place, games that were far more than mere sport. The Maya believed that the ball game, known as Pac-to-Pac, was a reenactment of the cosmic struggle between light and darkness. Some evidence suggests that the losing teamer, perhaps only their captain, was sacrificed to the gods, reinforcing the sacred nature of the event. But Chichén Itzá was not alone in this new era of Maya civilization. Other cities, such as Uxmal and Mayapan, also rose to prominence, each playing a role in the evolving political landscape. The rulers of these cities formed shifting alliances, engaged in conflicts, and adapted to the challenges of a changing world. One of the most significant developments of the post-classic period was the rise of the League of Mayapana Confederation of City-States, led by Mayapan, which for a time maintained stability in the region. However, as history has shown time and again, unity among Maya rulers was often fragile. Internal rivalries and political intrigue eventually led to the League's collapse, plunging the region into chaos once more. Despite these political shifts, Maya society continued to flourish in many ways. Their trade networks expanded, reaching as far as central Mexico and even the Caribbean. They developed new styles of art and architecture, incorporating influences from other Mesoamerican cultures. And though their classic writing system was no longer as widely used, they continued recording their history and rituals through murals, codices, and oral traditions. Yet, an even greater threat was approaching, one that would alter the course of Maya history forever. From across the Atlantic, foreign ships were drawing closer to the shores of the Yucatan Peninsula. The Spanish, driven by conquest and the thirst for wealth, were about to arrive, bringing with them diseases, warfare, and a relentless ambition to reshape the world they encountered. As the winds of change swept across the Yucatan Peninsula, the Maya continued to evolve, adapting to new challenges while maintaining their deep-rooted traditions. Their cities, once centers of power and grandeur, had shifted focus, yet they remained vibrant hubs of trade, culture, and spirituality. But looming on the horizon was a force unlike any they had ever faced before. It was the early 16th century, when the first Spanish ships appeared along the coasts of the Yucatan. To the Maya, these arrivals must have seemed like omens of a world about to be turned upside down. The Spanish conquistadors, armed with steel weapons, gunpowder, and an insatiable hunger for gold and territory, saw the lands of the Maya as ripe for conquest. Unlike the Aztecs, who ruled over a vast centralized empire, the Maya remained divided into independent city-states. This decentralized structure made resistance more difficult, but it also prevented the Spanish from achieving a swift and decisive victory. Instead, the conquest of the Maya was a prolonged, brutal struggle that lasted nearly 2 centuries. The first Spanish encounters with the Maya were not outright battles, but cautious interactions. Explorers such as Francisco Hernández de Córdoba arrived in 1517, followed by Juan de Grijalva in 1518. They marveled at the stone cities hidden in the jungle, at the wealth of the Maya, and at their complex social structures. But they also met resistance. Maya warriors, skilled with bows and spears, fought fiercely to protect their homeland. Then came Hernán Cortés, the conquistador, whose name would become infamous throughout Mesoamerica. Although his primary focus was the conquest of the Aztec Empire, he took note of the Maya, understanding that they could be both allies and enemies in his ambitions. Some Maya rulers, seeing an opportunity, offered assistance to Cortés, providing warriors and intelligence against the Aztecs. But the true war for the Maya lands began in earnest with Francisco de Montejo, who led a campaign to subjugate the Yucatan in the 1520s and 1530s. The Maya, though outgunned, did not yield easily. They waged guerrilla warfare, retreating into the dense jungles and launching ambushes on Spanish forces. The conquest dragged on, with many Maya cities resisting fiercely before finally falling. One of the most tragic aspects of this conquest was not the battles themselves, but the arrival of European diseases. Smallpox, measles, and influenza diseases unknown to the New World spread like wildfire through Maya communities, killing countless people before they even had a chance to fight. Entire cities were wiped out, leaving the Spanish to walk through ghost towns, where temples and plazas stood silent, their former inhabitants taken by unseen forces. Despite all of this, the Maya spirit was never fully broken. Some regions held out for decades, even centuries. The city of Tikal, in modern-day Guatemala, remained independent until 1697, making it the last Maya stronghold to fall. Even after the Spanish officially claimed the region, rebellions would continue for generations. But the conquest was not just a battle of weapons set, was also a battle of culture, language, and belief. The Spanish sought to erase the Maya religion, replacing it with Christianity. They destroyed sacred temples, burned ancient codices filled with invaluable knowledge, and forced the Maya to adopt new customs. Yet despite these efforts, many Maya traditions survived, woven into the fabric of their daily lives and passed down through generations. Though their great cities may have fallen and their empires may have faded, the Maya people endured. Their culture, their knowledge, and their spirit remain alive to this day, a testament to one of the most extraordinary civilizations the world has ever known. The Spanish conquest of the Maya may have marked the end of their once mighty cities, but it did not erase the resilience of their people. Unlike the Aztecs, who fell swiftly to the forces of Hernán Cortés, the Maya waged a prolonged and bitter resistance. Their knowledge of the dense jungle allowed them to retreat, regroup, and fight back in ways that confounded the Spanish for generations. One of the most famous instances of Maya resistance occurred in the 17th century, long after most of Mesoamerica had been subdued. The city of Tenochtitlan, also known as Tikal, was the last independent Maya kingdom, located on an island in Lake Chichén Itzá. The Spanish, determined to bring all of the Yucatan under their control, launched multiple expeditions against it. However, the Itzá Maya, the rulers of Tikal, successfully repelled them time and time again. For nearly 2 centuries after the fall of the Aztecs, Tikal remained a beacon of Maya independence. It was only in 1697 that the Spanish, under Martín de Ursúa, finally overpowered the city. Even then, the Maya did not surrender. Easy accounts describe desperate battles fought on the shores of the lake, with warriors and civilians alike resisting until the very end. But even as the Spanish established dominance over the Maya lands, the culture itself refused to disappear. Unlike in some parts of the Americas, where indigenous traditions were nearly obliterated, the Maya found ways to preserve their identity. Many accepted Christianity outwardly, while secretly continuing their ancestral religious practices. Others incorporated elements of Catholicism into their own belief systems, creating a unique blend of Maya and European traditions that persists to this day. Language was another powerful tool of resistance. Despite the suppression of their writing system, the spoken languages of the Maya people endured. Today, more than 6 million people in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras still speak Maya languages, keeping alive a linguistic tradition that stretches back thousands of years. Even their sacred texts, though largely destroyed by Spanish missionaries, survived in fragments. The most famous of these is the Popol Vuh, a book that tells the creation story of the Maya and details the adventures of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Palenque, as they journey through the underworld and challenge the god. Though the original manuscript was lost, a Dominican friar named Francisco Ximenez transcribed the text in the 18th century, preserving it for future generations. As the centuries passed, the Maya lands became part of the Spanish colonies, then later independent nations. But the struggles of the Maya were far from over. Even in the modern era, they have fought to retain their land, culture, and identity in the face of political upheavals, economic hardships, and ongoing discrimination. Yet, despite all the challenges, the legacy of the Maya remains strong. Their ancient cities, once buried beneath layers of jungle, are now recognized as some of the greatest wonders of the world. Tourists from around the globe walk among the ruins of Tikal, Palenque, Copán, Uxmal, and Chichén Itzá, marveling at the architectural brilliance of a civilization that continues to inspire. But beyond the ruins, beyond the stones that tell of their past, the Maya are not just a story of history. They are a living people, carrying forward the traditions, the language, and the spirit of one of the most remarkable civilizations the world has ever known. The resilience of the Maya people is evident not only in their ability to withstand centuries of foreign rule, but also in the way their traditions, knowledge, and beliefs continue to shape the modern world. Though their grand cities have fallen into ruin, their legacy remains alive in ways both seen and unseen, influencing everything from modern astronomy to agricultural techniques. One of the most enduring aspects of Maya culture is their deep connection to time and the cosmos. Long before European civilizations developed sophisticated calendars, the Maya had already devised an incredibly precise system that allowed them to track celestial movements with astonishing accuracy. Their calendar system was more advanced than the Julian calendar used in Europe at the time, and their calculations of planetary cycles were often more precise than those of later astronomers. The Maya understood time as cyclical rather than linear. They believed that history repeated itself in great cosmic cycles, a concept deeply embedded in their mythologies and rituals. Their long count calendar, which gained global attention in 2012 due to misunderstandings about the so-called end of the world, was in reality a way to mark the completion of one cycle and the beginning of another. In addition to their advanced astronomy, the Maya were also masters of agriculture. Despite the challenges of the dense jungle environment, they developed innovative farming techniques that allowed them to sustain large populations. They created raised fields, known as chinampas, that prevented crops from flooding during the rainy season, and they used slash-and-burn techniques to clear land for farming. However, unlike other civilizations that depleted their soil, the Maya found ways to replenish nutrients, ensuring continued agricultural success. Their knowledge of plants extended beyond food production. The Maya were skilled herbalists, using natural remedies for medical treatments that modern scientists are only now beginning to understand. They knew of plants with antibacterial properties, pain relievers, and even substances that acted as anesthetics during surgery. Some of these ancient healing techniques are still practiced in indigenous Maya communities today. Art and architecture were another defining feature of their civilization. From the towering pyramids of Tikal to the intricate carvings of Copán, the Maya expressed their spiritual beliefs and historical records through their artistic mastery. Murals painted on temple walls depicted scenes of gods, warriors, and rulers, each telling a story of power, sacrifice, and divine connection. Even the way they built their cities was deeply symbolic. Many Maya structures were aligned with celestial events, allowing sunlight to shine through key openings during solstices and equinoxes. This alignment demonstrated not only their architectural skill, but also their profound understanding of astronomy and mathematics. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Maya civilization was their ball game, known as poktopok, or pits. More than just a sport, this game carried religious significance and was often played in large ceremonial courts. The game involved players using their hips, elbows, and knees to keep a heavy rubber ball in motion, sometimes for hours. In certain cases, the game had ritualistic consequences, with some scholars suggesting that the losing team or its captain was offered as a sacrifice to the gods. Despite the destruction brought by Spanish colonization, Maya traditions have endured. Many modern-day Maya communities still celebrate ancient festivals, honor their gods, and pass down their knowledge through oral storytelling. Their vibrant textiles, intricate weaving techniques, and traditional dances continue to be practiced in regions across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. Though their civilization has changed over time, the heart of the Maya remains strong. Their story is not one of extinction, but of adaptation and survival, proving that even the mightiest of civilizations can find ways to endure through the ages. To truly understand the Maya, one must delve into their complex spiritual world. Theirs was a civilization deeply rooted in mythology, where gods and humans were intertwined in a cosmic dance that shaped both the heavens and the earth. Every aspect of Maya life, agriculture, warfare, kingship, and even daily routines, was governed by the will of the gods and the movements of celestial bodies. At the heart of their belief system was a deep reverence for the natural world. The Maya saw divine energy in rivers, caves, mountains, and especially the sky. Their gods were forces of nature. Kak, the god of rain, controlled the life-giving waters, while Itzamna, the creator deity, oversaw wisdom, writing, in the cosmos. Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, was associated with wind and the cycles of time, guiding the fate of kings and civilizations. Maya religious practices were elaborate, and often involved offerings to appease the gods. Rituals took place in grand temples, open plazas, and even within sacred cenotes, natural sinkholes, believed to be portals to the underworld, known as Xibalba. In times of drought or crisis, human sacrifices were made to seek divine favor, with the belief that spilling royal blood ensured cosmic balance. Bloodletting was one of the most sacred rituals performed by Maya rulers and priests. Using sharp stingray spines or obsidian blades, they would pierce their tongues, ears, or other body parts, collecting the blood on strips of paper and burning it as an offering. The rising smoke was believed to carry messages to the gods, strengthening the ruler's divine connection. This practice reinforced the belief that kings were more than just political leaders. They were intermediaries between the human and divine realms. The underworld, Xibalba, played a crucial role in Maya mythology. It was depicted as a dark, watery place ruled by death gods who delighted in testing and tormenting souls. The most famous tale of Xibalba is found in the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, which tells the story of the hero twins Hunahpu and Palenque. These twin brothers descended into the underworld to challenge the gods of death, enduring a series of deadly trials. Through cunning and bravery, they ultimately triumphed, restoring cosmic balance and securing their place among the stars as the sun, day, and moon. Maya priests were the keepers of sacred knowledge, acting as astronomers, scribes, and guides in both the spiritual and earthly realms. They meticulously observed the movements of planets and stars, using this knowledge to determine the timing of rituals, battles, and agricultural cycles. Their calendar system, which combined the Tzolk'in, a 260-day ritual calendar, and the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar, was one of the most sophisticated of the ancient world. Temples were designed with celestial alignments in mind, demonstrating an advanced understanding of astronomy. The Caracol Observatory in Chichén Itzá, for example, was built to track the motions of Venus, a planet of great significance in Maya cosmology. They believed Venus influenced war and kingship, and its appearances in the sky often dictated the timing of major events. Despite centuries of conquest and cultural suppression, Maya spirituality never truly disappeared. In many indigenous communities today, ancient rituals are still performed, and offerings are made to the spirits of the land. The blend of Catholicism with Maya traditions has resulted in unique religious practices that continue to shape the lives of their descendants. The Maya viewed life, death, and rebirth as part of a never-ending cycle, mirroring the movements of the stars and the passage of time. Their civilization may have changed, but their legacy, written in stone, whispered in myths, and carried in the hearts of millions, endures, stretching far beyond the ruins of their ancient cities. The Maya were not only astronomers and architects, but also masterful engineers and city planners. Despite the dense jungles, unpredictable climate, and seasonal rains of Mesoamerica, they created some of the most sophisticated urban centers of the ancient world. Their cities were marvels of design, blending monumental architecture with a deep understanding of their environment. Unlike other ancient civilizations that built along rivers, the Maya often settled in areas with no permanent water sources. To overcome this, they developed intricate systems of reservoirs, canals, and underground storage facilities to capture and store rainwater. The city of Tikal, one of the greatest Maya cities, relied on an advanced network of reservoirs that ensured a steady supply of water even during prolonged dry seasons. These reservoirs were lined with limestone to prevent seepage and featured filtration systems to keep the water clean. Beyond water management, the Maya also mastered road construction. They built raised stone causeways called sakbiob, which connected major cities, enabling trade, communication, and military movement. Some of these roads stretched for miles, cutting through dense jungles and swamps. Their construction methods, using layers of crushed stone and plaster, ensured durability, and some of these ancient roads remain visible today. Maya cities were designed with a clear sense of order. At their center stood towering pyramids, temples, and palaces, surrounded by residential areas, markets, and ceremonial plazas. Unlike many other ancient cultures, Maya cities did not follow a rigid grid pattern. Instead, they adapted their structures to the natural landscape, incorporating hills, caves, and water sources into their urban planning. One of the most fascinating aspects of their architecture was the corbel vault, an advanced technique used to create doorways and roofs without the use of true arches. By layering stones gradually inward, they formed vaulted ceilings that could withstand immense weight. This technique allowed them to construct large rooms, palaces, and passageways, many of which still stand today. Another striking feature of Maya cities was their vibrant use of color. Though today we see their pyramids and temples in weathered stone, in their prime, these structures were covered in bright red, blue, and yellow paint. The temples of Tikal, Palenque, and Copán would have been breathtaking in their vivid hues, standing against the backdrop of green jungles. While their cities were political and religious hubs, they were also centers of commerce. The Maya economy was based on a vast trade network that connected different regions, allowing for the exchange of goods like jade, obsidian, cacao, cotton, salt, and feathers. The presence of materials from distant lands such as turquoise from the American Southwest and gold from Central America indicates that the Maya engaged in long-distance trade with far-reaching civilizations. Cacao, in particular, held a special place in Maya society. It was so valuable that cacao beans were often used as currency. Drinking zocotel, a bitter chocolate beverage made from ground cacao beans, was reserved for the elite and was often consumed during ceremonies. The Maya believed cacao was a gift from the gods, and it played a key role in their mythology. Despite their impressive advancements, the Maya faced significant environmental challenges. The rapid growth of cities placed pressure on natural resources, requiring constant adaptation. To sustain agriculture, they developed terrace farming on hillsides, built raised fields and swamplands, and practiced crop rotation to prevent soil depletion. Deforestation for construction and fuel may have contributed to the environmental stresses that played a role in the decline of some Maya cities. Yet, even as certain cities were abandoned, others continued to thrive. The Maya civilization was not a single unified empire, but a collection of city-states, each with its own rulers and destiny. While some centers faded into obscurity, new ones emerged, proving that the Maya were a civilization of constant reinvention and resilience. Their cities may have been reclaimed by the jungle, but their achievements etched into stone and passed down through generations remain a testament to their ingenuity, ambition, and enduring spirit. The grandeur of the Maya civilization was not solely defined by its towering pyramids or intricate calendar systems. It was also reflected in its sophisticated political structures and the ever-changing dynamics of power among its many city-states. Unlike the centralized empires of the Aztecs or the Incas, the Maya civilization functioned as a collection of independent kingdoms, each ruled by its own elite class and noble families. At the core of Maya political life was the concept of the divine king, known as the Ajah. The Ajah was more than just a ruler, he was a living link between the people and the gods. His legitimacy rested on his ability to communicate with the supernatural, perform rituals, and lead his people both in peace and in war. Many rulers traced their lineage to the gods, reinforcing their right to rule through elaborate ceremonies, public works, and military conquests. These kings wielded immense power, commissioning grand architectural projects, organizing trade, and dictating religious practices. However, their rule was not absolute. They relied on an intricate network of nobles, scribes, warriors, and priests to maintain order. The court was a place of intrigue, where alliances were forged and broken, where marriages between royal families secured peace or ignited conflict. Among the most powerful Maya city-states was Tikal, a dominant force in the lowlands, controlling vast territories and engaging in long-standing rivalries. One of its greatest enemies was Calakmul, a city that stood as its equal in power and ambition. The war between Tikal and Calakmul lasted for centuries, shaping the fate of the entire region. Each city formed alliances with smaller polities, turning the Maya world into a shifting battlefield of diplomacy and warfare. These conflicts were not simply about territorial expansion. War had deep religious and ritualistic significance for the Maya. Victories were celebrated with grand ceremonies, and captive, especially rival rulers, were often sacrificed in elaborate rituals meant to appease the gods. Some were tortured, others displayed publicly as a warning to enemies, their names recorded in stone to immortalize the triumph of the victors. Yet, the Maya did not always resolve conflicts through war. Diplomatic marriages played a crucial role in maintaining stability. Royal women, often daughters of kings, were married off to rulers of rival cities to cement alliances. These queens sometimes held great influence, acting as advisors or even ruling in the absence of a male heir. One of the most famous examples is Lady Six Sky, a powerful queen who ruled in Naranjo and led military campaigns to secure her city's dominance. Beneath the royal courts, society was structured with a clear hierarchy. At the top were the nobility rulers, priests, and high-ranking officials who controlled religious ceremonies, trade, and governance. Below them were artisans, scribes, and traders who formed the backbone of the economy. Scribes held a particularly esteemed position, as they were responsible for recording history, myths, and astronomical calculations. At the lowest levels of society were farmers, laborers, and servants. While commoners had fewer privileges, they played a vital role in sustaining the civilization. They built the temples, harvested the crops, and fought in wars. Many were skilled in crafts such as pottery, weaving, and stone carving, contributing to the artistic legacy of the Maya. Slavery also existed within Maya society. Prisoners of war, criminals, and those who owed debts could become slaves, working in the fields or serving in elite households. However, unlike in some civilizations, Maya slaves were sometimes able to earn their freedom, and their status was not necessarily hereditary. Despite the social hierarchy, the Maya were deeply communal. Religious festivals, markets, and public gatherings brought people together, reinforcing a shared cultural identity. Cities were filled with bustling marketplaces where traders exchanged goods like cacao, obsidian, and textiles, creating a vibrant economy that connected the Maya to neighboring cultures. The political landscape of the Maya world was constantly shifting, shaped by war, diplomacy, and ambition. While some city-states rose to dominance, others fell into obscurity. Yet, through all the upheavals, One thing remained constant: the Maya's belief in their divine connection to the cosmos, a belief that shaped every aspect of their civilization. The Maya worldview was one of profound connection to the gods, to nature, and to time itself. Their daily lives were governed by a complex system of rituals, cycles, and ceremonies, all meticulously aligned with celestial events. To the Maya, the universe was not a random collection of forces, but a carefully structured cosmos in which every action had meaning. At the heart of this belief system was their understanding of time. The Maya saw time as a series of repeating cycles, an eternal dance of creation, destruction, and rebirth. Their calendar system was one of the most sophisticated in the ancient world, blending religious significance with practical applications for agriculture, politics, and daily life. The Tzolk'in, or sacred round, was a 260-day ritual calendar used for divination and religious ceremonies. Each day had a specific meaning and was associated with different deities, making it essential for determining the best days for rituals, battles, and even childbirth. Complementing this was the Hub, a 365-day solar calendar that governed agricultural activities and civic life. Together, these calendars created a calendar round, a repeating cycle of 52 years, after which time was believed to reset. Beyond this, the Maya tracked much larger cycles with their long count calendar, which allowed them to measure vast spans of time stretching thousands of years into the past and future. This calendar famously began on the 11th of August, 3114 BCE, marking the mythical beginning of the current era. The end of a Baktun, a cycle of approximately 394 years, was seen as a moment of great transformation, leading to the widespread misinterpretation that the Maya predicted the end of the world in 2012. In truth, they simply believed that one cycle would end, making way for the next. This intricate system was closely tied to Maya astronomy. Their priests carefully observed the movements of celestial bodies, particularly the Sun, Moon, and Venus. Venus held special importance as a symbol of war and cosmic order. Maya rulers often timed military campaigns with the appearance of Venus in the sky, believing that divine forces guided their actions. Their knowledge of astronomy was so precise that they could predict solar and lunar eclipses centuries in advance. Many of their temples and pyramids were built in alignment with astronomical events. At Chichén Itzá, the temple of Kukulkan was designed so that during the equinoxes, the setting sun created the illusion of a serpent slithering down the pyramid staircase, a perfect blend of science and spirituality. Even death was seen through the lens of cosmic cycles. The Maya believed in an afterlife journey through Xibalba, the underworld, a treacherous place ruled by gods of death and disease. Souls had to navigate trials and traps before reaching their final destiny. Kings and nobles were often buried with elaborate offerings to aid them in this journey, including jade masks, food, and even sacrificed companions or animals. Maya funerary traditions reflected their deep belief in continuity between the worlds of the living and the dead. Tombs were often placed beneath temples, reinforcing the idea that rulers continued to influence their people even in death. The elaborate murals of sites like Bonampak depict these funerary rituals, showing mourners offering gifts to departed kings and performing ceremonies to ensure their safe passage into the afterlife. Through their mastery of time, astronomy, and ritual, the Maya shaped a civilization that saw itself as intimately connected to the cosmos. They believed their actions could influence divine forces, and their rulers were seen as the mediators between the human and spiritual realms. This profound relationship with time and the universe was what guided their great achievements and ultimately what shaped their destiny. The Maya built some of the most breathtaking temples and cities in the ancient world, each designed with a specific purpose, whether for worship, administration, or astronomical observation. Among their greatest architectural achievements were their towering pyramids, which still stand today as silent witnesses to their once magnificent civilization. Each city-state had its own distinctive architectural style, but all shared common elements: grand plazas, ceremonial ball courts, palaces, and sacred temples dominated their city centers. These structures were not simply built for function, they were infused with spiritual meaning, designed to reflect the Maya worldview and their connection to the gods. One of the most stunning examples is Tikal, a city that rose to prominence during the Classic period. At its height, it was home to tens of thousands of people, with Temple the First, the Temple of the Great Jaguar, towering over the central plaza. This structure served as a royal tomb, dedicated to Chichén Itzá, one of Tikal's most powerful rulers. Across from it stood Temple II, believed to have been built for his queen, symbolizing their eternal partnership in both life and death. Further west, the city of Palenque is famous for its intricate carvings and well-preserved temples. The Temple of the Inscriptions houses the tomb of Chichén Itzá, a king whose burial chamber was discovered deep within the pyramid, complete with a jade death mask and richly decorated sarcophagus. His reign was one of Palenque's most prosperous periods, marked by great architectural and artistic achievements. Another remarkable site is Copán, located in present-day Honduras. Known for its elaborate stele and detailed carvings, this city was a center of art and knowledge. The hieroglyphic stairway, one of its most famous features, is the longest known Maya inscription, containing over 2,000 glyphs that document the history of Copán's kings. This massive stairway serves as both a historical record and a monumental work of art, blending storytelling with architectural grandeur. Perhaps the most famous Maya site today is Chichén Itzá, a city that flourished during the post-classic period. Its Temple of Kukulkan is an engineering marvel, designed to align with the equinoxes in a spectacular display of light and shadow. The city also features the Great Ball Court, the largest in Mesoamerica, where players engaged in the sacred ball game that had deep religious and political significance. What makes these structures even more astonishing is the fact that they were built without metal tools, the wheel or draft animals. Maya engineers relied on manpower, stone tools, and their deep knowledge of materials to construct their temples. They used limestone, a readily available resource, and developed advanced techniques to cut and transport massive blocks, assembling them with incredible precision. These cities were not only centers of political and religious life, but also hubs of innovation. They contained vast markets, reservoirs, and complex road networks that facilitated trade and movement. Each structure served a purpose, whether as a royal residence, an astronomical observatory, or a sacred space for ceremonies that connected the people to their gods. Even after the decline of many of their great cities, these monumental structures remained standing, hidden beneath layers of jungle for centuries. The rediscovery of these ruins in the 19th and 20th centuries reignited global interest in the Maya civilization, leading to ongoing archaeological explorations that continue to uncover new insights into their world. Though the temples and pyramids may now be silent, they still tell the story of a civilization that once ruled the heart of Mesoamerica. A people who saw the universe as a great interconnected whole and who built their cities not just to live in, but to honor the divine forces that guided their lives. The Maya were not only great builders and astronomers, but also master storytellers. Their myths and legends were more than just tales. They were deeply embedded in their understanding of the cosmos, the gods, and the cycles of time. These stories were passed down through generations, preserved in carvings, murals, and sacred texts, like the Popol Vuh, the great book of Maya mythology. The Popol Vuh tells of the creation of the world and the adventures of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Palenque, who traveled to the underworld, outwitted the gods of death, and rose to the heavens as the sun day and the moon. This myth was not just a story, it was a reflection of the Maya belief in cycles of destruction and renewal, a concept woven into their understanding of time itself. According to Maya mythology, the world had been created and destroyed multiple times. The gods shaped humanity from different materials, first from mud, then from wood, but these beings were flawed and were ultimately destroyed. Finally, the gods crafted humans from maize, the sacred crop of the Maya, and these became the true people of the world. This belief reinforced the central role of maize in Maya life, not just as food but as a divine substance that connected them to their origins. The underworld, known as Xibalba, was a terrifying place ruled by sinister gods, with names like One Death and Seven Death. It was a realm of darkness, filled with trials and illusions, where souls had to pass through challenges before they could ascend. The journey of the hero twins through Xibalba symbolized the struggle between light and darkness, life and death, a theme that resonated deeply in Maya rituals and daily life. Mythology was also reflected in the Maya's sacred ball game, Pak to Pak, which was more than just a sport, it was a reenactment of cosmic battles. The hero twins had played this game against the gods of Xibalba, using it as a means of overcoming death itself. In Maya society, the game was sometimes played for high stakes, with the losing team or its captain being sacrificed to ensure the continuation of cosmic balance. Through their myths, the Maya explained the movements of the heavens, the changes of the seasons, and the fate of kings and kingdoms. Their legends were not separate from reality, but interwoven with it, guiding their rulers in making decisions and shaping the way they saw their place in the universe. Art was another medium through which the Maya expressed their worldview. Their murals, pottery, carvings, and codices were filled with intricate depictions of gods, kings, and cosmic events. Every piece of art told a story, a visual narrative that preserved history, myth, and culture. One of the most stunning examples of Maya art is found in Bonampak, a site in present-day Mexico known for its brilliantly painted murals. Unlike most Maya sites, where time and the elements have erased much of the original color, Bonampak's murals remain vivid, showing scenes of battle, ritual sacrifice, and royal ceremonies. These paintings reveal a society that was both deeply spiritual and intensely political, where rulers demonstrated their power not only through architecture, but also through grand artistic displays. Maya pottery was another key form of artistic expression. Ceramic vessels, often painted with mythological scenes or historical events, were used in ceremonies, feasts, and burials. Some were inscribed with glyphs that recorded details about the owner, the artist, or the event they commemorated. These vessels served as both functional objects and historical records, preserving knowledge that might have otherwise been lost. Stone carvings, particularly the stele, were monumental in both size and significance. These tall stone slabs, often found in city centers, were covered in hieroglyphic inscriptions and detailed images of kings, performing rituals, engaging in battles, or communicating with the gods. Some of these stelae recorded important dates in Maya history, helping modern archaeologists piece together the timelines of different city-states. Even their architecture was infused with artistic detail. The facades of temples and palaces were often adorned with elaborate carvings of deities, animals, and supernatural beings. Cities like Palenque and Copán are particularly famous for their sculptural artistry, showcasing intricate reliefs that depict everything from divine ancestors to rulers in elaborate headdresses. Despite the destruction of many Maya texts by Spanish conquerors, a few Maya codices survived, offering valuable insights into their knowledge of astronomy, rituals, and history. The Dresden Codex, for example, contains detailed records of the Venus cycle and eclipse predictions, demonstrating their advanced understanding of celestial movements. These codices were made from bark paper, folded like accordion-style books, and meticulously painted with glyphs and illustrations. Through their art, the Maya recorded their beliefs, their triumphs, and their deepest fears. It was their way of ensuring that their legacy would endure, even in the face of time and conquest. As the post-classic period progressed, the Maya world underwent significant changes. The powerful city-states of the classic era had faded, and new centers of power emerged. Among these, Chichén Itzá, Uxmal, and Mayapan stood out as the dominant forces of the Yucatan Peninsula. Chichén Itzá, already a flourishing city, became a major religious and political hub. Its influence stretched far beyond its immediate region, drawing visitors, traders, and pilgrims from across Mesoamerica. The city's architecture reflected a blend of Maya and Toltec influences, suggesting that it had become a multicultural center of exchange. One of its most iconic structures, El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan, demonstrated the continued importance of astronomical alignments in Maya society. The temple was designed so that, during the equinoxes, a shadow in the shape of a serpent slithered down the steps, symbolizing the descent of the feathered serpent god. This merging of architecture, astronomy, and religion highlighted the Mayas' ongoing reverence for cosmic cycles. However, despite Chichén Itzá's power, its dominance eventually waned, giving rise to Mayapan, a city that became the last great capital of the Maya. Unlike previous city-states, Mayapan was ruled by a council rather than a single divine king, marking a shift in governance. This attempt at centralized rule created a period of relative stability, but it was short-lived. Internal strife, economic struggles, and conflicts between noble families led to its downfall in the 15th century. By the time the Spanish arrived in the early 1500s, the Maya world was already fragmented. Unlike the Aztecs, who had a strong central authority in Tenochtitlan, the Maya were divided into various city-states and provinces, each with its own rulers and agendas. This decentralization made conquest more difficult for the Spanish, but also meant that resistance was scattered and inconsistent. The Spanish conquest of the Yucatan was not a swift event. It took nearly 2 centuries of warfare, diplomacy, and disease to fully subjugate the Maya. Unlike the quick fall of the Aztec Empire, the Maya fought back through guerrilla tactics, retreating into the dense jungles and launching surprise attacks on Spanish settlements. Some regions, like the Petén Basin, resisted Spanish rule well into the 17th century. Despite the military and political domination of the Spanish, the Maya people never truly disappeared. Their traditions, languages, and beliefs persisted, blending with European influences while retaining their core identity. Today, The descendants of the Maya continue to honor their ancestors, speaking their ancient languages, practicing their traditional crafts, and celebrating the festivals that have survived for thousands of years. The Maya story is not one of destruction, but of endurance. Though their great cities may have fallen, the spirit of their civilization lives on, carried by the millions of Maya people who continue to walk the lands of their ancestors. Even after the Spanish conquest, the Maya people did not simply vanish into history. They endured, adapting to the changes forced upon them while holding on to their traditions in secret. The Spanish sought to dismantle Maya society by imposing new laws, forcing conversions to Christianity, and destroying their sacred texts. But resistance remained strong. One of the greatest tragedies of the conquest was the burning of the Maya codices. In 1562, Diego de Landa, a Franciscan friar, ordered the destruction of Maya books and religious artifacts in an attempt to eradicate their beliefs. He believed he was saving souls, but in reality, he was erasing centuries of knowledge. Only 4 codices survived fragments of what was once a vast written record of Maya science, history, and mythology. Despite this devastation, the Maya found ways to preserve their knowledge. They continued practicing their rituals in secret, often merging them with Catholic traditions to avoid persecution. Many of their sacred ceremonies, once performed in temples, were now carried out in hidden shrines deep in the jungle or within the privacy of their homes. Their resistance was not only cultural, but also physical. In 1847, centuries after the Spanish conquest, the caste war of Yucatan erupted a rebellion led by the Maya against the Mexican government, which had continued exploiting them as laborers and denying them land rights. The war lasted for decades, with some Maya groups retreating into remote territories, forming independent communities that remained free from outside rule well into the 20th century. Even today, echoes of this resistance can be seen in the Maya communities of southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. Their languages are still spoken, their crafts still practiced, and their spiritual beliefs still honored. Despite centuries of oppression, the modern Maya have taken an active role in reclaiming their heritage, with archaeologists, scholars, and local leaders working to preserve and celebrate their ancestral knowledge. The rediscovery of their great cities by European explorers in the 19th and 20th centuries helped spark global interest in Maya history. As ancient ruins like Tikal, Palenque, and Copán were excavated, scholars began to piece together the story of this lost civilization. The decipherment of Maya hieroglyphs, which had long been a mystery, opened new doors to understanding their achievements in astronomy, mathematics, and governance. The Maya were never truly lost. Their civilization may have changed, their cities may have fallen silent, but their legacy is alive, carried forward by their descendants and by the stories written in stone. For much of modern history, the Maya writing system remained an enigma. The Spanish conquest had disrupted its use, and the destruction of the codices had erased much of the knowledge necessary to read the glyphs. For centuries, scholars struggled to decipher the intricate symbols carved into stelae, temples, and ceramics. It wasn't until the 20th century that breakthroughs in deciphering Maya script finally emerged. Researchers like Tatiana Proskuryakov, Yuri Norizov, and Linda Shealy made significant strides in unlocking the meaning behind the glyphs. They discovered that Maya writing was a complex combination of logograms and phonetic symbols, capable of recording not just dates and names, but entire historical narratives. Each glyph represented a sound, a word, or a concept, allowing the Maya to record detailed accounts of battles, royal lineages, and astronomical observations. Unlike many early interpretations, which assumed the glyphs were purely decorative, it became clear that they contained precise historical records. With this newfound understanding, scholars were able to reconstruct much of Maya history. Inscriptions once thought to be mysterious symbols were now recognized as stories of kings, wars, and celestial events. The names of rulers, long forgotten, were finally read aloud again, their legacies restored after centuries of silence. The decipherment of the glyphs also confirmed that the Maya had a deep understanding of mathematics. They used a base -20 numerical system, incorporating the concept of zero-something that only a few ancient civilizations independently discovered. Their ability to calculate long spans of time allowed them to create one of the most accurate calendar systems of the ancient world. This rediscovery of Maya writing has led to an ongoing golden age of research. Each year, new findings emerge, shedding light on aspects of their civilization that were once unknown. The Maya, once thought to be a people of mystery, are now recognized as one of the most advanced cultures of the ancient world. As archaeological discoveries continue to reshape our understanding of the Maya, new technologies have provided even deeper insights into their civilization. One of the most groundbreaking advancements in recent years has been the use of LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, a tool that allows researchers to scan the jungle floor and reveal hidden structures buried beneath centuries of vegetation. LiDAR surveys in Guatemala, Belize, and Mexico have uncovered thousands of previously unknown Maya structures, from small villages to massive urban centers. What was once thought to be a scattered civilization has now been revealed as a vast network of interconnected cities, roads, and reservoirs, suggesting that the Maya population may have been far larger than previously estimated. One of the most astonishing finds was the discovery of a massive network of causeways connecting different city-states, showing that the Maya had developed sophisticated infrastructure to facilitate trade and military movement. Some of these roads extended for miles, cutting through dense jungle, demonstrating an advanced level of engineering and organization. Another revelation came with the discovery of hidden chambers within existing ruins. Some temples, once thought to be simple structures, were revealed to have multiple layers of construction, with older pyramids buried beneath newer ones. This technique, known as superimposition, allowed the Maya to build upon the achievements of their ancestors, constantly reshaping their cities over centuries. Underneath the grand plazas of cities like Tikal and Caracol, LiDAR scans have revealed complex water management systems, including underground reservoirs and canals designed to capture and store rainwater. These discoveries challenge earlier theories that Maya cities struggled with drought, suggesting instead that they had developed ingenious solutions for managing water resources. But perhaps the most mysterious of these findings are the underground caves and tunnels that seem to have played a significant role in Maya rituals. Some of these caves, filled with artifacts and human remains, suggest that they were used for sacrificial ceremonies, believed to be gateways to the underworld. The Maya saw caves as sacred places where the gods of Xibalba resided, and offerings were made to maintain balance between worlds. These discoveries continue to reshape our understanding of the Maya, proving that their civilization was even more complex and advanced than previously thought. The jungle still holds many secrets, and with each new exploration, the story of the Maya grows richer and more fascinating. Their achievements in architecture, astronomy, engineering, and governance rival those of any other great civilization in history. Yet what makes the Maya truly remarkable is not just what they built, but how their legacy has endured, defying time conquest, and the forces of nature, their civilization was never truly lostly waiting to be rediscovered. The legacy of the Maya is one of resilience, intelligence, and adaptation. Even as their great cities fell and their political structures collapsed, their influence never truly disappeared. The Maya world was vast, stretching across present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. And while some regions experienced decline, others continued to flourish, evolving in new ways. By the post-classic period, 900, 1000, 500 CE, many of the grand cities of the classic era had been abandoned, but new centers of power emerged, particularly in the northern Yucatan Peninsula. Cities like Chichén Itzá, Uxmal, and Mayapan thrived, forming political alliances that brought a new level of stability. Trade expanded, connecting the Maya with civilizations as far away as the Caribbean and central Mexico. One of the major shifts during this period was the decline of divine kingship. While classic period rulers were seen as direct intermediaries between the gods and the people, post-classic Maya politics became more decentralized. In cities like Mayapan, power was shared among noble families, rather than concentrated in a single ruler. This shift may have helped these cities survive longer than their predecessors, but it also led to internal rivalries and conflicts. Religious practices continued to evolve as well. While the feathered serpent god Kukulkanamaya, counterpart to the Toltec god Quetzalcoatl, gained greater prominence, older deities like Chak, the rain god, and Itzamna, the sky god, remained central to spiritual life. Temples were still built in honor of these gods, and rituals including human sacrifices continued, particularly in sacred cenotes. The Maya's maritime trade networks also expanded during this period. Large seafaring canoes carried goods like cacao, salt, jade, obsidian, and textiles across the coasts, linking Maya cities with the Aztecs, Mixtecs, and other Mesoamerican cultures. This period marked a shift toward greater interaction with surrounding civilizations, influencing art, architecture, and even warfare. However, as internal conflicts grew and resources became strained, many of these post-classic cities eventually fell. Mayapan, once a thriving political center, collapsed in the 15th century due to civil war. By the time the Spanish arrived in the early 1500s, the once mighty Maya civilization was already politically fragmented, making it vulnerable to conquest. But the Maya would not simply disappear. Their culture, language, and traditions would continue to survive, shaping the history of the Americas long after the fall of their great cities. The arrival of the Spanish in the early 16th century marked the beginning of one of the longest and most brutal conquests in history. Unlike the Aztec and Inca empires, which fell relatively quickly, the conquest of the Maya took nearly 2 centuries. The reason? The Maya were not a single empire, but a collection of city-states, each with its own rulers, armies, and strategies for resistance. The first Spanish explorers, including Francisco Hernández de Córdoba, 1517, and Juan de Grijalva, 1518, were met with hostility when they landed on the shores of the Yucatan. The Maya fought fiercely, refusing to submit to foreign invaders. However, despite their military strength, they faced an invisible enemy far more devastating than swords or muskets' European diseases. Smallpox, measles, and influenza spread rapidly through Maya communities, wiping out entire populations before they could even engage in battle. In some cases, cities were abandoned simply because there were too few survivors left to maintain them. The loss of their priests, nobles, and rulers led to a breakdown in governance, making them more vulnerable to conquest. Despite these challenges, the Maya continued to resist. Gonzalo Guerrero, a Spanish sailor shipwrecked in the Yucatan in 1511, was captured by the Maya, but eventually integrated into their society. He married a Maya noblewoman, learned their language, and even became a military leader, teaching them Spanish warfare tactics to resist further invasions. His story is a rare example of a European who chose to become Maya, fighting against his own people rather than aiding in the conquest. The Spanish, led by Francisco de Montejo and his son, launched multiple campaigns throughout the 16th century to subjugate the Yucatan, but each time, the Maya resisted, retreating into the dense jungles and using guerrilla warfare to fight back. The conquest was a slow, brutal process, filled with betrayals, shifting alliances, and relentless bloodshed. One of the last independent Maya cities, Nojpatén, Tayasal, held out until 1697, more than 150 years after the fall of the Aztecs. Even after this final defeat, resistance continued, with periodic uprisings against Spanish rule well into the 19th century. But even as the Spanish imposed their rule, the Maya found ways to preserve their traditions. They blended their spiritual beliefs with Catholicism, disguising their gods as Christian saints and continuing rituals in secret. Some remote Maya communities remained completely isolated for centuries, keeping their traditions alive despite colonial oppression. While the Spanish may have claimed victory, the spirit of the Maya was never truly broken. The resilience of the Maya people extended well beyond the Spanish conquest. Throughout the colonial era, they endured forced labor, land seizures, and cultural suppression, yet they refused to let their identity fade. Many Maya communities retreated into the highlands and jungles, maintaining their traditional ways of life away from Spanish control. During the 19th century, the Yucatan Peninsula became a battleground once again in what became known as the Caste War of Yucatan, 1847-1901. This massive rebellion saw the Maya rise up against the Mexican government, seeking to reclaim their lands and autonomy. Though the war eventually ended in defeat, it demonstrated the Maya's continued resistance against oppression, a theme that is echoed throughout their history. Even into the 20th and 21st centuries, the Maya people have fought for their rights, often facing discrimination and economic struggles. Yet, they have never disappeared. Today, over 6 million Maya people still live in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, speaking their ancestral languages and practicing their traditional customs. Their cities, once swallowed by the jungle, have been uncovered and studied, revealing a civilization that continues to astonish scholars and visitors alike. Sites like Tikal, Palenque, Copán, and Chichén Itzá are now UNESCO World Heritage Sites, drawing millions of people each year who come to marvel at their grandeur. Modern Maya communities continue to celebrate ancient festivals, practice traditional medicine, and pass down their sacred knowledge. The legacy of the Maya is not just a story of the past, it is a living history, carried forward by the descendants of those who built one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. Their story is far from over. The Maya, once thought to be lost to time, remain very much alive, reminding the world that history is not just something we read about, it is something that continues to shape our present and our future. Their civilization may have changed, but their spirit endures. And as long as their temples stand and their voices are heard, the Maya will never be forgotten. The Maya were not only skilled architects and astronomers, but also masters of agriculture and environmental management. Unlike many civilizations that overexploited their land, the Maya developed innovative techniques to sustain large populations in regions with unpredictable rainfall and challenging terrain. Their greatest staple was maize, considered a divine gift in Maya mythology. Alongside maize, they cultivated beans, squash, chili peppers, avocados, cacao, cotton, and tobacco. They developed sophisticated terracing systems to prevent soil erosion on hillsides and built raised fields in swampy areas to improve drainage and soil fertility. One of their most remarkable achievements was their ability to adapt to a landscape that lacked major rivers. In the northern Yucatan, where natural water sources were scarce, the Maya built choltens, underground reservoirs designed to store rainwater. In regions with seasonal flooding, they constructed canals and reservoirs to control water flow, ensuring a steady supply throughout the dry season. Despite these advancements, overpopulation and environmental strain may have played a role in the decline of many Maya cities. Some researchers suggest that excessive deforestation for agriculture and temple construction led to soil depletion and prolonged droughts, weakening their ability to sustain large populations. Yet, even as some cities declined, the Maya people continued to find new ways to adapt, migrating to different regions and adjusting their agricultural practices. Their ability to thrive in diverse landscapes for over 2,000 years stands as a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. One of the most captivating aspects of Maya civilization is their mysterious ball game, known as Pok-to-Pok or pits. This was far more than just a sport. It was a ritual deeply tied to cosmic cycles, warfare, and even human sacrifice. The game was played in grand ball courts, some of which still stand today, such as the massive Great Ball Court of Chichén Itzá, largest in Mesoamerica. Players used their hips, elbows, and knees to keep a heavy rubber ball in motion, trying to score by passing it through stone rings high above the court. But Pok-to-Pok was more than a test of physical skill. It was a reenactment of the celestial battle between the forces of life and death, reflecting the myth of the hero twins from the Popol Vuh, who played against the lords of the underworld. Some historians believe that losing players sometimes, even the captain, were sacrificed, their deaths believed to ensure cosmic balance and appease the gods. This sacred game also had political and social significance. Rulers used it to settle disputes, and in some cases, prisoners of war were forced to play, with the losing side facing execution. These ritualistic elements make it one of the most unique and enduring aspects of Maya culture, a practice that, in modified forms, still exists among some modern Maya communities today. The Maya had a profound understanding of medicine and healing, using their deep knowledge of plants, minerals, and spiritual practices to treat illnesses. Their healers, known as aged men, shamans, served as both doctors and spiritual guides, believing that sickness could have both physical and supernatural causes. They created herbal remedies using plants like chaya, a leafy green with medicinal properties, copal, a resin used for purification, and various tree barks with antiseptic and anti-inflammatory effects. Some Maya medicines were so effective that modern scientists have studied them for potential pharmaceutical applications. Their surgical skills were also advanced for their time. They practiced trepanation, a procedure where they cut holes into the skull to relieve pressure or treat injuries amazingly. Evidence suggests that many patients survived. They also developed dental modifications, embedding jade or turquoise into teeth as a form of body adornment. Even today, traditional Maya healing practices persist in many indigenous communities. Modern Maya shamans continue to use their ancestral knowledge, blending ancient rituals with contemporary medicine to maintain a tradition that has survived for thousands of years. The rediscovery of the Maya civilization is one of the most fascinating stories in the history of archaeology. For centuries, their great cities remained hidden beneath dense jungles, their pyramids swallowed by time. It wasn't until the 19th century that European explorers began to uncover the remains of this once mighty civilization. Early accounts from travelers such as John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood brought the ruins of Palenque, Copán, and Uxmal to global attention. Catherwood's detailed illustrations of Maya temples, carvings, and hieroglyphs amazed scholars and fueled public fascination with this lost world. However, early interpretations of the Maya were filled with misconceptions. Many 19th century researchers believed they were a peaceful, priest-led society, unaware of the warfare and political complexities that defined much of their history. It was only in the 20th and 21st centuries, with the decipherment of their hieroglyphs and the use of new archaeological techniques, that a clearer picture of the Maya emerged. Today, excavations continue to uncover new sites, with LiDAR technology revealing entire cities once hidden beneath the jungle canopy. Each new discovery sheds light on the achievements, struggles, and daily lives of the Maya, proving that their civilization was far more sophisticated than early researchers had imagined. As the world continues to learn more about the Maya, their influence is becoming more widely recognized. Their mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and agricultural techniques were among the most advanced of their time, rivaling those of the great civilizations of the Old World. Modern Maya communities continue to thrive, preserving many aspects of their ancient heritage while integrating into contemporary society. In Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, millions of Maya people still speak their traditional languages, celebrate ancient festivals, and practice the customs of their ancestors. The study of the Maya is far from over. Each year, new discoveries are made, challenging old assumptions and offering fresh insights into their civilization. The jungle still hides many secrets, and archaeologists continue to uncover evidence of forgotten cities, temples, and artifacts. The legacy of the Maya is not just a relic of the past, it is a living history. Their descendants continue to honor the wisdom of their ancestors, proving that the Maya civilization never truly disappeared. It simply evolved, adapting to the changing world while holding on to the spirit of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. Their story is one of triumph, endurance, and knowledge of civilization that understood the cosmos, built monumental cities, and left behind a legacy that continues to inspire and captivate the world today. As more discoveries emerge from beneath the jungles of Central America, the true scope of the Maya civilization continues to expand. What was once thought to be a scattered collection of city-states is now understood to have been a vast, interconnected society with infrastructure that rivaled even the greatest empires of the ancient world. One of the most important aspects of Maya civilization was its extensive trade network. Unlike many other ancient cultures, which relied on conquest and tribute to sustain their economies, the Maya built a sophisticated system of commerce that stretched across Mesoamerica and beyond. Goods from the highlands of Guatemala, the jungles of the Yucatan, and the coastal regions of Belize were transported across vast distances, exchanged for materials that were unavailable in certain areas. One of the most prized commodities in the Maya world was jade, this vibrant green stone. often carved into intricate masks, jewelry, and ceremonial objects, was associated with wealth, power, and the afterlife. The finest jade came from the Motagua Valley in present-day Guatemala, and only the most elite members of society could afford to wear or be buried with it. Another highly valuable resource was obsidian, a volcanic glass used for making razor-sharp blades, weapons, and tools. Though the Maya did not have access to iron or bronze, their mastery of obsidian allowed them to create surgical instruments and weapons that were sharper than steel. Large deposits of obsidian were found in the highlands of El Chayal and Pachuca, and it was widely traded across Maya cities. Cacao beans, the foundation of what we now call chocolate, were another essential trade item. The Maya prepared exocotel, a bitter, spiced chocolate drink, which was reserved for the nobility and warriors. Cacao was so valuable that it was even used as currency, with records indicating that a single cacao bean could buy a small fruit, while a rabbit might cost about 10 beans. This system of trade made cacao one of the most sought-after commodities in the Maya world. Salt was another highly prized resource, especially in inland cities that lacked direct access to coastal salt flats. The salt-producing centers of northern Belize, such as Trading Post, Paynes Creek, and Ekwe provided large quantities of salt, which was essential for preserving food and maintaining health. Archaeological evidence suggests that canoe-based trade networks transported massive quantities of salt along rivers and across coastal routes, further linking Maya cities. The Maya also traded cotton textiles, which were woven into elaborate garments for the elite. The colorful dyes used to produce these textiles, including indigo and cochineal red, were highly sought after, and Maya weavers were renowned for their skill. Feathers from exotic birds, such as the quetzal, were also considered luxury goods, used to adorn the headdresses of kings and high-ranking officials. Through this expansive trade system, the Maya established connections not only with other Maya city-states, but also with distant civilizations such as the Zapotecs, Mixtecs, and even the distant peoples of central Mexico. Some evidence suggests that Maya merchants traveled as far as the Gulf Coast, and possibly even to regions beyond Mesoamerica. These trade networks were supported by an extensive system of roads known as sakbiob. Unlike dirt paths, sakbiob were elevated limestone causeways designed to facilitate long-distance travel and ensure that goods could be transported efficiently. Some of these roads stretched for dozens of miles, cutting through dense jungle, swamps, and difficult terrain. The sheer complexity of Maya trade, infrastructure, and economic planning demonstrates that they were far more advanced than once believed. Their ability to manage resources across vast distances, build networks of cooperation, and sustain their cities through commerce shows a level of sophistication that rivals that of the great empires of the Old World. Despite their achievements, however, this system was not immune to collapse. As the Classic period came to an end, disruptions in trade routes, increasing warfare, and environmental stressors weakened the foundations of the Maya economy. Cities that once thrived on commerce began to struggle, leading to further instability and ultimately the widespread abandonment of many great urban centers. But the Maya people endured. Even after their cities fell silent, they continued their traditions, adapting to new circumstances while preserving their cultural identity. One of the most enduring aspects of Maya civilization is their deep connection to astronomy and the cosmos. The Maya were not only great observers of the sky, but also master timekeepers, creating some of the most advanced calendar systems in the ancient world. At the core of their astronomical knowledge was their ability to track the movements of celestial bodies with astonishing precision. They carefully observed the sun, moon, planets, and stars, recording their cycles and aligning their architecture with important astronomical events. Unlike many ancient cultures that relied purely on observational astronomy, the Maya developed mathematical models to predict celestial phenomena far into the future. The most famous example of their astronomical precision is found at Chichén Itzá, where the temple of Kukulkan was designed to interact with the sun. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, a serpent-shaped shadow moves down the temple's staircase, creating the illusion of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, descending from the heavens. This alignment was no accident. It was carefully planned to honor the cycles of time and the connection between the gods and the earthly realm. Another key aspect of Maya astronomy was their fascination with Venus. They tracked its movements with incredible accuracy, recording its morning and evening appearances. In Maya belief, Venus was associated with warfare and divine power, and its cycles were used to determine the timing of military campaigns and rituals. The Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving Maya books, contains detailed calculations of Venus's orbit, proving that the Maya understood its cycle better than many later civilizations. The Maya also recorded solar and lunar eclipses. Understanding that they followed predictable cycles, they built observatories, such as the Caracol in Chichén Itzá, where priests and astronomers could study the sky without obstruction. These structures, often aligned with celestial events, were key to their religious and political life. Perhaps their most famous legacy is their calendar system, which remains one of the most advanced in history. Unlike the Gregorian calendar used today, the Maya developed multiple interconnected calendars, including the Tzolk'in, a 260-day sacred calendar used for religious rituals and divination; the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar used for agriculture and civic life; the calendar round, a system that combined the Tzolk'in and Hab to create repeating cycles of 52 years; the long count calendar, used for recording historical events, spanning thousands of years and allowing the Maya to track time on a grand cosmic scale. It was this long count calendar that sparked global curiosity in 2012, when the 13th Baktun, a cycle of approximately 394 years, ended. Some misinterpreted this as a prophecy for the end of the world, but in reality, the Maya simply viewed it as the completion of one cycle and the beginning of another. To them, time was cyclical, not linear, an eternal sequence of destruction and renewal. Their knowledge of time and space was so precise that modern astronomers have confirmed the accuracy of many of their calculations. Despite having no telescopes or metal tools, they developed an understanding of planetary movements and celestial cycles that rivals modern methods. The Maya were not just builders of cities and monuments, they were architects of time itself, weaving together mythology, mathematics, and the heavens into a system that guided their civilization for over 2,000 years. The Maya civilization was shaped by its deep spiritual beliefs, with religion influencing every aspect of life, from daily rituals to political decisions, warfare, and even the design of their cities. The Maya saw the universe as a layered reality, with the heavens above, the earthly realm in the middle, and the underworld, Xibalba, below. Their gods, ancestors, and rulers played essential roles in maintaining the balance of these three worlds. Maya religion was polytheistic, with hundreds of deities governing different aspects of life. Some of the most important gods included Itzamna, the creator god, associated with wisdom, writing, and the cosmos; Chak, the god of rain, often depicted with a long, curling nose and an axe, which he used to strike clouds and produce thunder. Kukulkan, or Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity, linked to wind, learning, and the cycles of time. Push, the god of death, ruler of Xibalba, often represented with a skeletal face and ominous features. Ixchel, the goddess of fertility, childbirth, and healing, closely associated with the moon. The Maya believed their rulers were divine intermediaries between the gods and humanity. Kings were often depicted performing bloodletting rituals, where they pierced their tongues, ears, or other body parts to draw blood as an offering to the gods. This act was believed to open a direct line of communication between the ruler and the spiritual world, ensuring prosperity for their people. Temples and pyramids were built to mirror the structure of the cosmos. Many were designed with staircases leading toward the sky, symbolizing the ascent to the divine, while caves and underground chambers represented the entrance to the underworld. Rituals often took place on the top of pyramids, where priests conducted ceremonies, made offerings, and even carried out human sacrifices. Human sacrifice was a sacred duty, seen as a necessary act to appease the gods and maintain cosmic order. Unlike the Aztecs, who performed sacrifices on a massive scale, Maya sacrifices were often more selective, typically involving prisoners of war, noble captives, or even voluntary offerings from the elite. Victims were thrown into sacred cenotes, decapitated, or had their hearts removed in elaborate ceremonies meant to replicate the myths of creation and renewal. Sacred cenotes, natural sinkholes, played an essential role in Maya spirituality. They were believed to be entrances to Xibalba, the underworld, and were used for rituals, offerings, and sacrifices. The most famous example is the sacred cenote at Chichén Itzá, where archaeologists have discovered gold, jade, pottery, and human remains, all thrown into the depths as gifts to the gods. Maya priests were the keepers of divine knowledge, responsible for reading the stars, interpreting omens, and performing ceremonies. They maintained the complex calendar system, ensuring that rituals were performed at the correct times to align with celestial cycles. These priests were also skilled healers, using their knowledge of plants, minerals, and chants to cure ailments, ward off evil spirits, and predict the future. Even after the Spanish conquest, many Maya religious traditions persisted, while forced conversions to Catholicism led to the destruction of temples and sacred texts. The Maya adapted by blending their ancient beliefs with Christian elements. Many modern Maya communities still honor their gods, celebrate traditional festivals, and perform rituals that trace back thousands of years, keeping the spirit of their ancestors alive. The Maya were not only deeply religious, but also fierce warriors, engaging in battles for power, resources, and honor. Unlike large centralized empires, Maya warfare was often focused on city-state rivalries, with kings seeking to expand their influence through strategic alliances and conquests. Maya warfare was unique in that it was not always about complete destruction. Instead of wiping out enemy cities, Maya kings often sought to capture high-ranking nobles, priests, and rulers, who were then used as hostages, sacrificed, or incorporated into royal courts. These captives were sometimes displayed in public ceremonies, bound and humiliated before being offered to the gods. One of the greatest military conflicts in Maya history was the Tikal-Calakmul War, a struggle for dominance that lasted for more than a century. Tikal, a powerful city in present-day Guatemala, clashed repeatedly with Calakmul, its rival in modern Mexico. These cities formed competing alliances, drawing in smaller city-states to fight on their behalf, leading to a long series of wars that shaped the entire region. Maya warriors used a variety of weapons, including atlatls, spear throwers, used to launch spears at high speeds, obsidian-tipped clubs and knives, capable of cutting through flesh and bone, bows and arrows, though not as commonly used as in other Mesoamerican cultures, blowguns, sometimes used for ambushes and hunting. Warfare was deeply tied to ritual and religion. Battles were often timed to align with celestial events, such as the appearance of Venus, which was seen as an omen for conflict. Before going into battle, warriors performed ceremonies, sought guidance from priests, and made offerings to the gods to ensure victory. While large-scale wars did occur, Maya military campaigns were often seasonal, pausing during the rainy season when travel became difficult. Some battles were fought not for land, but for prestige, as kings sought to prove their strength through displays of military dominance. The decline of many classic period cities is believed to have been partially caused by constant warfare, which drained resources and weakened political structures. As conflicts escalated, trade routes were disrupted, alliances fractured, and once great cities like Tikal, Copán, and Caracol fell into decline. Despite these struggles, the Maya never vanished. Even after the great cities of the classic period were abandoned, new power centers arose, and Maya resistance against foreign invaders continued for centuries. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they expected to encounter a civilization that would submit quickly to their rule. Instead, they faced relentless resistance as Maya warriors refused to surrender their land, culture, and way of life. Unlike the Aztec Empire, which fell in just 2 years, the Maya fought for nearly 2 centuries, using their knowledge of the terrain to launch guerrilla-style attacks against the invaders. Even after the Spanish declared victory, the Maya people never truly accepted foreign rule. Rebellions continued well into the 19th and 20th centuries, with the Caste War of Yucatan, 1847-1901, being one of the most significant uprisings. Maya communities continued to resist, refusing to be erased by history. Today, the descendants of the Maya still honor their warrior ancestors, preserving the stories, traditions, and strength that allowed their civilization to endure for thousands of years. The battles may have changed, but the Maya spirit remains as strong as ever. Even though the great Maya cities of the classic period fell into decline, the Maya people never truly disappeared. Their civilization endured, evolving and adapting to new circumstances, while still holding on to their ancestral traditions. But one of the most misunderstood aspects of Maya history is the question of why so many of their great cities were abandoned. For years, scholars speculated about the mystery of the Maya collapse, searching for a single catastrophic event that might explain why once thriving metropolises like Tikal, Copán, and Caracol were suddenly left to be reclaimed by the jungle. However, modern research suggests that the collapse was not the result of one singular disaster, but rather a combination of factors that built up over time. One of the leading theories centers around climate change and prolonged drought. The Maya civilization was heavily dependent on seasonal rainfall, and recent scientific studies indicate that a series of intense droughts struck the region between the 8th and 10th centuries. With little access to large rivers like the Nile or the Tigris and Euphrates, the Maya relied on carefully constructed reservoirs and cenotes for water. But as the rains became less predictable, cities began to struggle. Evidence from soil samples and cave formations, known as stalagmites, has revealed that rainfall dropped dramatically during this period. leading to widespread crop failures, food shortages, and civil unrest. The once prosperous cities, which had grown to support massive populations, suddenly found themselves unable to sustain their people. Deforestation also played a crucial role in the decline. The Maya cleared vast areas of jungle to build their cities, using massive amounts of limestone and wood for construction. They needed wood to fuel the kilns that produced the plaster used to coat their temples and palaces. But this process required cutting down huge amounts of trees. Over time, this deforestation led to soil erosion, reducing the ability to grow crops and further destabilizing the environment. Political instability and warfare compounded these environmental challenges. The great Maya city-states were constantly in conflict, vying for power and control over valuable trade routes. As resources became scarcer, tensions escalated, leading to an increase in violent warfare. Cities that had once flourished as trade hubs now found themselves cut off from essential goods like obsidian, jade, cacao, and salt. One by one, cities began to collapse from within. Populations dwindled, rulers lost their divine authority, and commoners fled to the countryside, seeking new opportunities for survival. By the end of the 10th century, many of the great cities of the southern lowlands, Tikal, Palenque, Copán, had been largely abandoned. But while the cities of the classic period faded, the Maya civilization itself did not vanish. Instead, power shifted to the northern Yucatan Peninsula, where new centers like Chichén Itzá, Uxmal, and Mayapan rose to prominence during the post-classic period. These cities continued many of the traditions of their predecessors, but they also introduced new political structures, focusing more on councils of noble families rather than the rule of divine kings. Even as the classic Maya cities fell silent, their descendants continued to thrive in smaller villages and towns, adapting to changing environments while keeping their culture alive. The fall of the classic cities was not the end of the Maya civilization. It was simply a new chapter in their long and complex history. While much of the world once believed the Maya had vanished, modern research proves that they are very much alive and thriving. Today, over 6 million Maya people live in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, carrying on the traditions of their ancestors in both old and new ways. Maya languages, once suppressed by Spanish colonization, are still spoken by millions. In Guatemala alone, more than 20 Maya languages are actively used, including Kich, Yucatec, Kikchi, and Mam. These languages, passed down through generations, serve as a link to a past that was never truly lost. Traditional Maya customs, from weaving and pottery making to agricultural techniques and healing practices, continued to be an essential part of daily life in many indigenous communities. Maya shamans still perform rituals to honor the earth, using copal incense, sacred chants, and ceremonial dance practices that date back thousands of years. Modern Maya also celebrate ancient festivals that blend traditional beliefs with Catholic influences, a legacy of colonialism. Events like the Day of the Dead, which honors ancestors through food, music, and offerings, are deeply rooted in pre-Hispanic traditions. Yet despite their resilience, many Maya communities continue to face challenges, including economic struggles, land disputes, and discrimination. For centuries, indigenous Maya people were pushed to the margins of society, their culture suppressed, and their lands taken. However, in recent decades, there has been a growing movement to reclaim their history and heritage. In Guatemala, Maya leaders have taken active roles in politics, education, and archaeology, working to preserve their traditions while fighting for indigenous rights. Organizations dedicated to language revitalization, cultural preservation, and environmental protection are helping ensure that Maya identity remains strong in the modern world. Tourism has also played a significant role in the rediscovery of the Maya civilization. Sites like Tikal, Chichén Itzá, and Palenque attract millions of visitors every year, bringing global attention to their achievements. But for many Maya descendants, these ruins are more than just tourist attractions. They are sacred places, reminders of the greatness of their ancestors. One of the most significant modern breakthroughs in understanding the Maya has come through LiDAR technology, which has revealed the full extent of their civilization. These scans have uncovered massive urban networks, hidden pyramids, and ancient highways stretching far beyond what was previously known. This has led archaeologists to rethink everything about the size, complexity, and influence of the Maya world. But beyond the ruins, beyond the scientific discoveries, the greatest legacy of the Maya is their endurance. They were never truly lost. Their civilization evolved, adapted, and survived. Despite centuries of colonization, warfare, and environmental challenges, their story is not just one of the past, but of the present and the future. The Maya people continue to live, work, and thrive in the lands of their ancestors, proving that their culture, knowledge, and spirit remain as powerful as ever. The Maya were astronomers, architects, mathematicians, warriors, traders, artists, and engineers. They mapped the stars, built towering pyramids, and developed one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world. They left behind a legacy written in stone, stars, and time itself. Their achievements in astronomy, mathematics, and urban planning rival those of any other great civilization in history. Their calendar system, misunderstood for centuries, continues to fascinate scholars and researchers today. Their writing system, once thought to be indecipherable, now reveals a vast and complex history, stretching back thousands of years. Yet their greatest achievement may not be what they built, but what they preserved. Despite the fall of their cities, despite centuries of conquest and oppression, they are still here. Their language is still spoken, their traditions are still practiced, and their stories are still told. The Maya were never a lost civilization. They are a living culture, a people who have endured, adapted, and thrived against all odds. And as we continue to uncover the secrets of their past, we are reminded that history is not just something that happened, it is something that continues to shape the world we live in today. The story of the Maya is one of greatness, resilience, and mystery. For thousands of years, they built towering cities deep in the jungles of Mesoamerica, mapped the cosmos with stunning precision, and created a civilization that thrived long before the rise of European empires. Their influence stretched across vast distances. Their achievements rivaled those of ancient Egypt, Greece, and China. And their culture, despite centuries of conquest and change, never truly vanished. From the first villages of the pre-classic period to the rise of powerful city-states like Tikal, Palenque, Copán, and Chichén Itzá, the Maya proved themselves to be masters of architecture, engineering, and governance. Their pyramids still stand today, testaments to their ingenuity, aligned perfectly with celestial movements, marking the passage of time with breathtaking precision. Their calendar system, once feared as a prophecy of the world's end, was actually a brilliant method of tracking cosmic cycles, reinforcing their belief that time is eternal. Always repeating, they were not just scholars and builders, but also warriors, diplomats, and storytellers. They recorded their history in glyphs that once seemed impossible to decipher, leaving behind messages carved in stone, waiting to be rediscovered. These texts tell of kings and queens, of battles fought and alliances forged, of the rise and fall of mighty dynasties, revealing a civilization as complex and dynamic as any the world has ever known. But the Maya were also a people of profound spiritual depth, believing in a universe where the gods, the stars, and humanity were all connected. They honored their deities through grand ceremonies, offering sacrifices sometimes human, sometimes of the finest jade and Kakioto, maintained balance in the cosmos. They built temples that reached toward the heavens, and sacred cenotes that served as portals to the underworld, bridging the realms of the living and the divine. Then, the great classic period cities fell silent. The jungle reclaimed their temples, their monuments were forgotten, and their civilization was said to have disappeared. But the truth is far more complex. The Maya did not vanish, they adapted. Their people moved to new regions, their traditions evolved, and their languages survived, whispered in the markets and homes of their descendants. Even in the face of Spanish conquest, the Maya resisted, fighting to preserve their way of life. They endured forced conversions, the destruction of their sacred texts, and the loss of their lands. Yet they never let go of who they were. Some communities fled into the dense forests. Others integrated elements of Catholicism into their ancient beliefs, ensuring that their traditions could live on under the guise of new religions. And live on they did. Today, millions of Maya descendants continue to walk the lands of their ancestors, speaking the same languages, practicing the same crafts, and honoring the same gods that their people worshipped thousands of years ago. Their resilience is their greatest legacy, not just the temples and pyramids that tourists marvel at, but the enduring spirit of a civilization that refused to be erased. Thanks to modern archaeology, we now know that the Maya civilization was far greater than previously imagined. With LiDAR scanning technology, vast hidden cities have been uncovered, revealing a civilization that may have housed millions of people, interconnected by causeways and advanced infrastructure. Each discovery challenges what we thought we knew, proving that the Maya were not simply a scattered society of city-states, but a highly sophisticated civilization that pushed the boundaries of knowledge and innovation. Their contributions to mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and agriculture remain relevant even today. Their understanding of the stars continues to inspire modern scientists. Their architecture stands the test of time, and their agricultural methods are still practiced by indigenous communities. The Maya story is not one of extinction, it is one of evolution. It is a story of a people who built a world that would outlast them, who left behind knowledge that we are only now beginning to fully understand. A people whose voices still echo in the lands they once ruled, carried on by their descendants who honor the past while shaping the future. Their temples still rise above the jungle canopy, their glyphs still speak their history, and their traditions still survive. And so, the Maya are not gone. They are still here, in their people, in their ruins, in the very fabric of time itself. Their story is not over. It continues, as it always has, written in the stars and in the hearts of those who remember. And so, the story of the Maya does not end. It continues, written in the stars, etched into the stone of their great temples, and carried in the hearts of their descendants. Their pyramids still rise above the jungle, standing as silent guardians of a past that refuses to be forgotten. Their cities may have fallen quiet, but their knowledge, their traditions, and their spirit remain alive, woven into the very fabric of time itself. We have traveled through their world, through the rise and fall of mighty kings, the whispered prayers of priests watching the heavens, the clashes of warriors fighting for honor and destiny. We have glimpsed their understanding of the cosmos, their devotion to the gods, their mastery of time. But the Maya were never lost. Their civilization did not simply disappear, it evolved, adapted, and survived against all odds. Their descendants walk the same lands, speak the same languages, and carry forward a heritage stretching back thousands of years. Perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all, not how their cities fell, but how their spirit endured. As the night settles and the echoes of the past fade into the quiet, let your mind rest. The story of the Maya is not over. It continues, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be remembered, just like the stars they once mapped in the endless sky above.